Alright, thank you for joining me. In this video I want to walk you through our accounting template program for schools. So this template is going to help schools to solve their financials at a go, and we have embedded different components for an ideal school so that it will be suitable for all category of school that you run, either public or private, secondary, primary or nursery. Okay, now before we go deeper, I want to quickly let us understand the structure of this template so that it will make our work seamless. So I call this the workflow. So it is going to start from the admin page. So on your admin page, that is where you are going to enter different information as pertaining to class and your bill. Then in the second category, or in the second structure, that's where you have your bill breakdown. This is where you are going to attach monies to each of the components that makes up your school bill. Then the third structure is the payable fee. Remember that school fee does not determine how much eventually the child is going to pay, because there could be minus and plus on the school fees, so that will determine the payable fee of individual child. So we have an interface for that. Then the inflow has to do with an event, financial progressions as students make up their fee in installments or at a go. So without further ado, there is also an information as regards to the naming of each of the interface. Along the line, you come across something like J1 Term 1 Payable, J1 Term 1 Inflow. The keywords there are Payable and Inflow. Once you get to the Payable tab, you should have the mindset that this is where you want to determine how much a child is eventually going to pay, plus or minus the school fees. That is the amount eventually the child is going to pay. That is the payable fee. Then once you get to the interface for inflow, that means that you want to enter the payment of the child as it progresses. For instance, a child that is supposed to pay 80,000 naira in first installment, maybe he pays 20,000, second installment 15,000, and so on like that. So this is how money flows into the school account. So there is an interface for that. So let's go ahead and see how these structures or how these templates work together to give the school the needed solution for their financials. So I'll launch the template. So this is the dashboard. This is where you have a glimpse or a one-stand view of your school financials. This interface will summarize whatever is happening at the back end of this program. Okay, this is the interface where you get the summary of every of your activity in terms of finance of your school. Now, for the purpose of this video, I have used a secondary school as a case study. Let's assume that you are running a secondary school, but this is not to say that this template is not adapted for, cannot be adapted for primary or nursery or whatever citadel of learning that you run. So the first thing you do on this dashboard, this interface, is that you enter the name of your school. Let's take for instance City Hills Academy is a demo school just for the training purpose. Then your address, 1 Town Planning Way, let's say Akoka, Lagos. I'm just using this as an instance, remember. Then the phone number, you have to put that 0038. So then the email, okay. So basically these are the information you are going to enter on this interface. Every other information will be generated based on the activities at the back end. Now I want to bring your attention to two important things on this interface. This is our menu. I want you to look at the bottom left of your screen. You see that it is only one tab that is activated. we have only one tab activated, and that is the menu tab. And I said you can also call this your dashboard tab. Okay, this is our dashboard. This is when we get an overview, a summary of all the financial activity at the back end. That's number one. Then number two, I want you to look at this place of go to. Can you see go to? This is where you navigate to the back end of this program. There is a front end. This is our front end. The back end of this program, that's where the various activities occur. Then this page will now summarize everything for you at a glance. Okay, so currently you see the selection here is none, and that is why we have only one tab here, which is our menu tab. So now by the time you click on this icon here, you are going to see a number of options to pick from. Now all these options are interfaces that you might want to get to depending on what you want to do. Okay, so we have the all, we have the none. If I click on the none, nothing will happen. We only have one tab here. Then I'll go to the admin. Remember the image I showed us before we started? I said that the process will start from the admin interface, then we'll move to bill breakdown. Then from bill breakdown we get to our payable. Then from payable, for the payable you can have JSS1 payable, JSS2 payable, JSS3 payable, up to SS3 payable for each of the term. That means JSS1 we have three interfaces: first term, second term, and third term for payable. The same for JSS2. Then when you get to Inflow, if you scroll down, can you see it has changed to Inflow? If you scroll down, also JSS1 we have three interfaces for Inflow, each for each term: one first term, second term, third term, which I call term 1, term 2, term 3. Okay, now let's go back. So the first activity for you to structure your financial is to come to the admin interface. So I've selected admin. Initially it was at none. Remember when we started it was at none. Now I will select admin. Now that I've selected admin, look at what has happened at the bottom left of your screen. Can you see that an extra sheet has been added, an extra tab has been added, and it is called admin? This is as a result of my selection here at the go to. Once I select an interface here, an extra tab will always be added to the menu. So once I click on the admin, can you see this is what is happening at the back end, the admin end? Now what are you to do at this interface? You are to enter the names of your students or learners across the classes. Remember, we have used a secondary school as a case study for the purpose of this video walkthrough. Now I've entered some demo name across each of the classes from JSS1 to SS3. Now this template can accommodate up to 30 learners per class, which is ideal. 30 learners per class. This is not to say that it cannot be extended, but in an ideal setting where you have 30 students per class, then if you have above that, if you have an overflow, then you should have arms like JSS1A, JSS1B. But for growing schools and schools that have not met up that threshold, that this template is still very good for you. But if yours is more than this, then it can be extended. Then at this point, this is where you determine the component that makes up your school bill. Remember, a school bill is a summation of all the fees to be paid based on the component that makes up the school bill. For instance, for the purpose of this training, I've entered some demo components like your tuition fee, PTA levy, developmental, feeding if you are running a boarding school, uniform, stationery, transport fare, transport fee, hostel, and other fees. This other fees is good for terminal classes that have to pay for WAEC, NECO, and whatever external examination that your school participates in. Okay, so this bill heading must be determined. Yes, it might be different from what you have in your school. If the reality of your school is different from this, you can just come and change. You can change this to whatever school fee. I don't know what you call yours, but then I rather leave it as tuition. Tuition. Okay. If you like, you put the hash. If you don't like, don't put the hash. The hash is just to say that is in naira. Okay. Okay. So we have that now. Underneath you have waiver. You see, after determining your school bill, after determining how much a class is to pay, there are some students that there are still going to be some plus and minus on the school bill. Okay, if a class is supposed to pay, let's say 60,000 naira as school fees, let's say JSS1 is to pay 60,000 naira, Now this does not mean that each child in JSS1 will pay that actual 60,000 naira. They could be plus, they could be minus. Minus in the sense that a child can be on scholarship or can be given a discount if they pay early. Maybe you want to remove maybe 2% of their fee if they are paying within the first week of resumption. You know, maybe there's a discount policy ongoing in your school. So that means that if the class is to pay 60,000 naira, that child who pays early will be entitled to discount, and that discount will be a subtraction from the actual school bill. So that is why we call it waivers. A child can have access to scholarship or discount. Now those are the minuses. The plus to the school fees could be that the child has an outstanding monies to pay to the school, maybe debt, a carried over money that is supposed to be paid in previous terms or previous class that were not paid. That is going to be an addition to the school fees. So the school fees actually is not the payable fee. There's the difference between school fee and payable fee. The school fee is the flat amount the class is to pay, but the payable fee is after considering the plus and the minus on the school fees. I believe that is clear enough. Now you should also put your academic term here, your academic section here, because you are going to need it on the receipt interface, because there is this template also help you to generate a receipt for whatever transaction. Okay, so these are the basic things you do on this interface. So let's go and check other interface. So we have just checked the admin interface. The next thing is bill breakdown. After entering the names of the learners in their class, and you have entered the component that makes up your bill, and you have entered the academic section, the next place you should be going to is bill breakdown. This is when you determine the amount of money each class is to pay. Now that I've selected bill breakdown here, look at what has happened at the bottom left. You see, an extra sheet has been added to the menu. Instead of admin, it is now bill breakdown. So once I click on the bill breakdown, this is the interface. Can you see? This is where you determine how much each class is to pay per individual term. This is first term here, second term and third term. Okay, for classes JSS1 to SS3. I've told us that I'm using a secondary school as a case study for this video, but that does not mean that this template cannot be adapted for any kind of school that you run or tutorial class that you run. Okay, now if you look at the heading of each of the column, you see that it is the same thing as what we put in our admin. Can you see? Let's go to the admin. Let's see, can you see this place? Tuition, PTA. So whatever information you put here is going to reflect on your school bill. It's going to reflect on your school bill. So that's what we have at the top here. Can you see? So that is why I said you must put that, so that you are going to have a clean exercise when you are determining your school bill. So for JSS1, what should be their tuition fee? So I'm just going to enter some demo data. So for tuition, let's assume that they are going to pay 23,500 for JSS1. Then for JSS2, maybe you have to pay 22,800. Then for JSS3 is a terminal class. Okay, so let's assume that their school fees is going to be 30,000. For SS1, let's say the school fees will be 29,600. That is the tuition rather. Then the SS2, 23,500. I'm just putting all this data for the training purpose, so it could be different based on your reality. Then for SS3 is a terminal class as well. Let's assume they are paying just 20,000 for tuition. Remember, this is just tuition. Other fees, other fee component are also there. Then because JSS3 is a terminal class, so let's assume that they are paying extra 20,000 naira for their WAEC fee. Then SS3, let's assume they are paying 50,000 naira for their WAEC fee. Okay, so other things like PTA, let's say I will leave other fees empty for other class except from JSS3 and SS3, because they are the terminal classes and they have to pay for terminal exams. Okay, that is why I'm leaving this for 20,000 and this is for 50,000. At the end of the day, you see that the total payable fee for individual class has been determined for first term. So for JSS1, they have to pay the total of 57,100. For JSS2, 59,000. Then for JSS3, 88,800, and so on up to SS3. Can you see? You see the terminal classes, they have more bills to pay because they are in a serious class where they have to transit from a lower KEDA to a higher KEDA. Okay, so this is how you determine your school bill. Now let's assume that I want to focus on JSS3. I want to quickly highlight maybe I want to make some changes in JSS3. For easy access, I can just come here select JSS3 and uncheck. Can you see the green line that has been introduced? That green line is to help me to quickly highlight the class I'm targeting and for me to make my change. Let's assume that for feeding for uniform, I want to change it from 10,000 to let's say 9,500. Can you see? So it will be very easy for me to quickly identify the class I'm targeting with this green line that has just been introduced, and that is as a result of my selection here. I selected JSS3 and I unchecked this. So if I check it, the green line will disappear. Then if I uncheck it, you see that the green line will be reintroduced. This is to help me to quickly highlight the class I want to work on. So basically, this is what you do in this bill breakdown interface. When you get to second term, you also determine their school fees like that. Then third term, you have to determine their school fees like that. So let's stop here. Now, the important thing I want to bring your attention to is the school fees. This last column here, where you have total school fees. Now remember that these monies you are seeing here is the flat rate for the class. Like I told us, there could be plus on it if the child is owing, there could be minus from it if the child is entitled to one waiver or the other. Now I want you to look at something like this brown this black highlight, this place here immediately under the title. This is where you see the total money expected, total money expected for that class. Okay, so this is just a subtotal of individual this thing here. So it helps you to get a glimpse of the subtotal. So let's go to other interface. I click on the menu. Remember, I click on this drop down. After determining my bill, the next thing I have to do is now determine the payable fee for each child. This is where we do the plus and minus on the school bill we just determined. Okay, this is where we determine the plus and minus on the school bill we just determined. Now, while we are doing all this, I want you to note that there's nothing significant that is happening here yet. The reason is because we have not started adding some money. That's why we are not seeing any calculation here. The moment we are able to do a few things, I will bring us back here on the home page, which is our menu page, or which you can call your dashboard. Then we are going to see the activities that has been done. So I'm back to the payable fee for JSS1. Can you see J1 term 1 payable? That means that the money payable by individual child in JSS1 first term. Wow, so this is the interface. Now you see everything is blank, but then because we have entered the names of students in our admin interface, that's why you have the list of students here, but we just have the names of the students. There is no financial transactions ongoing yet until we started adding. Okay, so for Kingsley Thompson, which is the first child, let's assume that the child has a debt of 5,900 naira to pay from previous term. Can you see total payable has now been added, and we now have 5,900. Let's say the child is on scholarship of 1,000 naira. That 1,000 will be deducted, is a minus. Can you see it has now reduced to 44,900 naira. Discount, let's assume that if the child is able to pay up his debt, is going to have a discount of 500 naira. Can you see that 500 naira is also a minus? It has been debited from the total payable. You know, we have not added school fees. And for JSS1, if you look at it very well, let's go back to our bill. Let's go back to our bill breakdown. How much is JSS1 supposed to pay? 57,100. 57,100. So let's go back to menu and go back to JSS1 payable. Now, the school fees for JSS1, how do I activate it? Once I check this place, can you see 57,100 has been added. 57,100 has been added. So by the time you do the plus and minus on this 57,100, eventually the child is to pay 61,500. Can you see? So the child is paying more than the school fees for that class. The reason is as a result of the debt the child is owing the school, even though the child is benefiting some kind of waivers. Okay, so the child is paying 61,500. So let's just continue the transaction like that. Let's assume this one is 300 naira, 3,000 naira, and the scholarship, maybe there is no scholarship for this child and there is no discount for this child. Then the next thing is just we add the school fees. So this one is paying 60,100. Can you see that the total payable is now different from the flat rate, which is the school fees? The school fees is the same, but the payable amount for each of the child now varies. Let's see the third child. Let's say this one is not owing any debt and is having access to scholarship of 2,000 naira and a discount of 2,000 naira. Then by the time I add my school fees, Can you see? So the child is going to pay 53,100. You see, this child is paying lesser. The reason is because the child is not having any outstanding bill to pay. That is child number 3. And the child is even having access to scholarship, which is a minus on the school fees. He's even having a discount of 2,000 naira, which is also a minus from the school fees. By the time you remove 4,000 from 57,100, you are going to have 53,100. So this is the arithmetics of payable fee. Remember, we are in JSS1 first term payable fee for individual child. Even though the class flat rate is 57,100 naira, we have seen that the payable fee is different from child to child. And the key things you should take away from here is that by the time we do our plus and minus on the school fee, which is 57,100 for GSS1, you see that each child is now having variance in the money they are to pay to the school, and this is as a result of the debt, scholarship, and discounts. Okay, so that is how you are going to do it across the classes. So we are done with that. Now I want you to look at GSS1. Something has started happening in GSS1. Can you see? Now we have four learners that we have entered. Okay, let me click back to JSS1 so that you understand. JSS1 payable first term. Can you see? Only 4 students have financial activity ongoing in this class, and that is why this interface is telling us that there are 4 learners in the class. Okay, 4 learners in the class. Now these 4, they've not started paying any money. That's why number of no payment is still 4, because we've not started entering their inflow. We just did their payable. Now how much with these 4 children, how much am I expecting as a school? Now I'm expecting 231,300 naira from these 4 learners. So can you see? So from there I'm able to get a glimpse of what is happening in that class. But we are not done. Let's go back to the payable. So we just entered for 4 learners. Now that we have entered, let's now go to inflow. Remember the image I showed us before we started? I showed us that we are going to move from admin to bill breakdown, from bill breakdown to payable fees. That is where we are now. And now from payable fee we move down to what? We move down to inflow. Inflow is how these children are now paying up their bills. This is the money they are to pay. Some of them will decide to pay in installments, some of them will pay at a go. Okay, so let's click on menu. Remember, for the purpose of this video, I'm using JSS1. So to save our time, I can't go from JSS1 to SS3. So just to show you how to go about it, so I'll click on this place. I'll go to JSS1 pay inflow. I've been working on payable, so JSS1 term 1 inflow. I've worked on JSS1 term 1 payable. Now I want to work on JSS1 term 1 inflow. This is the sequence you have to follow. From admin, you do what I ask you to do in the admin, what I've just explained to you. Then you go to the bill breakdown, you do what you follow the practice of this video. Then you now go to payable. We just left the payable interface. Now we are at the inflow interface, and if you look at the bottom left of your screen, you see that the inflow tab has been added. So once I click on it, then I have this. You see that this interface is a bit different from the payable. We are now at the inflow for JSS1 first term. So that is how you are going to go to JSS2 first term payable, then JSS2 first term inflow, JSS3 first term payable, JSS3 first term inflow. You must determine the inflow. This inflow is how the monies are being paid. Now look at this first column here after the name. You see that this interface brought forward the total payable the child is to make. Each of the child are to make 61,500 for Kingsley, 60,000. Remember how we got all this? Ideally their school fees is supposed to be 57,100, but because of the pluses and minuses, this is now the money they have to pay. So what is the progression of their payment? Let's assume that for the first payment, first installment, Kingsley decide to pay 30,000 naira. Now out of 61,500, Kingsley has paid 30,000 naira. Now look at this thing. Look at this place here, the balance due. Kingsley still has 31,500 naira to balance the school. Now, in fact, the 30,000 naira that Kingsley paid is just 48.78% of the total fee he's supposed to pay. Can you see? Now, mode of payment. Let's assume that Kingsley's paid through check. Kingsley ordered the parent paid through check. Now, the date paid. Let's assume the date is let's say 9th September 2022. This is when the money was paid, the first installment. So this is the details of the first installment. This place is the detail of the first installment for Kingsley. Let's assume the second installment, Kingsley paid 25,000 naira for second installment, and that one was made by bank deposit. It was made by bank deposit. Then the date he paid this was maybe 19th of October 2022. Can you see? That's it. So this one happens to be the second installment details. Okay, now if you look at the transaction that is ongoing here, you see that Kingsley has only 6,500 naira left to balance the school, and Kingsley has paid an amount of 89,400 naira. This is where you get a glimpse of which child you have to send home for school fees drive. By the time you look at the percentage and you are comfortable with what you see, you can decide to leave a child. But by the time you see that the percentage is low, like for instance now, maybe after some weeks this table did not change and it's only Kingsley that has paid 89.43%, and every other children in the class, they are just having 0%, then you know that these 3 children have to be sent home to come and pay their school fees. Okay, so then for the third installment, let's assume Kingsley paid 5,000 naira through POS transaction, and the date is 20th of November 2022. Now Kingsley has exhausted the 3 installments. That means that Kingsley has a debt of 1,500 naira that will be taken over to second term. Remember, we are working on first term, so that means Kingsley has a sum of 1,500 naira balance to pay the school, and this is going to be a debt on Kingsley, though he has paid 97.56% of his fee, which is still reasonable, right? It's still reasonable. Now for the second child, let's assume that he is to pay 60,100 naira. Let's assume the first installment he pays 50,000 naira through bank transaction on the 10th of September 2022. Then the second installment he pays up his money, that is 11,000. Would that be 11,000? No, 10,100. So 10,000. Now in just 2 installments, this Nathaniel has been able to balance up his fee, and this second transaction is by cash. He paid in cash at the front office of your school. Then he paid this money 22nd of October 2022. So that means that there will not be need for any third installment, because with these 2 installments, this child has been able to pay up his fee, and now you see that the child is not having any balance to pay the school. So for second term, there will not be any money brought forward, unlike Kingsley, who has 1,500 naira to balance the school in second term. But this child is free, no debt, and he has paid 100% of his money. Can you see? So this is how the inflow works. Now if I want to target any other child as normal, let's assume I want to target Michael, for instance. I can just select Michael and uncheck. Can you see the green line has been introduced? Green line has been, so if any, let's assume that Michael is the one that has okay, let's use this Morgan. Let's use this Morgan. Let's assume that Morgan paid some money, so I will highlight Morgan to help me quickly identify the role of Morgan. So this place, let's say Morgan paid 35,000 first installment through POS transaction, and he paid this on the 31st or 30th September 2022. So he has a balance of 18,100 to balance the school, and he has just paid 65.91% of his money. Can you see? So the green line is to quickly help me identify the child I want to record the inflow on. Okay, so this is how the inflow works. So after you have worked on the admin, you have worked on the bill breakdown, you have worked on the payable fee, now you have worked on the inflow. The next thing is to start generating your receipts. Okay, so we click on the menu, we come here and we scroll down, we'll see receipts. So I'll click on the receipt. So this is our receipt interface. This is how it's going to look. You can see it comprises of a number of information about the class, the school, and it is different from the conventional receipt because this also serves as a reminder. There is addition and subtraction of whatever payable fee as pertaining to individual child. Now the most important part is these 3 variables. You must set these 3 variables in order to get the actual receipt for the child you are targeting. For instance, it is currently at JSS1 inflow, JSS1 first term payable, child number 1, and we know that child number 1, according to our list in this class, let's go back to menu, then let's come back to JSS1 Inflow. The first term. So can you see Kingsley is child number 1, followed by Nathaniel, child number 2, followed by Morgan, child number 3. So come back to menu, then we'll go back to our receipt to go and see what has happened. So these are receipts. Can you see child number 1 here, which is Kingsley for JSS1? This is the summary of his payment. He has made 3 payments in installments, and these are the individual payments he made at each of the installments, and this is the word and the monies in word. Okay, at the bottom of it, you see the summary of the financial standing. We see that this child still has a balance of 1,500 to pay up. Okay, now you also, if you press Ctrl P, you notice something, that we can generate 2 receipts on one single paper. 2 receipts on one single paper, then it can be detached using this perforated line. It can be detached. This is to help you economize the use of paper and to reduce the work load on your machine, your printing device. Okay, so by the time you come below, you also set the variable. This is JSS1 first term Inflow, JSS1 first term Payable. This, if you still set this one as child number 1, that means that you are generating 2 different receipts for Kingsley. Can you see? So we can change this one to child number 2, which is Nathaniel, according to our class list, which is Nathaniel. And you see, Nathaniel has made the full payment in 2 installments. You can see the third part here is blank. That is that in 2 installments, Nathaniel has made all his payments. Now he is having no debt, no balance due. Can you see? So that means I can generate 2 different receipts for 2 different individuals using just one paper. So that is the summary you need to take away from this receipt interface, and it comprises of other vital information as far as the child is concerned, and a brief note to the parents underneath, then the place of the signature of the school and the likes. But you should know that the most important part is these 3 key points. These 3 variables must be set appropriately. If you are targeting JSS2, you just click on it and you come to J2. Can you see? And if you are targeting a specific term, you have to look at the term 1, term 2, term 3 to know the class and the term you are targeting. Okay, so let's go to other section of the accounting software. Now, one more thing before we wrap up, and that is the place of class summary. So this class summary is to give you an overview of what is happening currently per child. Is different from what you get at this menu place. This menu is different. Now you can see that there's some information that has been added here, for instance, and the information I've been working on is only on first term. So in first term we have 4 children that has data that we have entered. Then only 1 child has paid full. Remember, only 1 child has paid 100%. The number of part payments, 2 of the children have paid part payments. Then 1 of them have not paid any money at all. So this is where you get a glimpse of what is happening in the class, and you are expecting to get 231,300 naira from that class, in which you've collected 155,100. Can you see? Out of 231,300, you have gotten 155,100. And what percentage is that? You've been able to recover 67% of the money expected from that class for this term, based on the information we've entered. So that means that from here you get a glimpse of how much more effort you need to put in your school fees drive for you to be able to increase the percentage to something like 90 something and even 100%. Okay, now let's come back to our class summary. So in this place of class summary, this is where you get what is happening in your school per class. Now let me select JSS1. Can you see? Only the information we have is only for first term. We have not entered any data for second term. Once I enter for second term, I'm also going to have some data reflecting here, and third term data reflecting here. Okay, for first term we see that we are expecting 61,500 from Kingsley. He has paid 60,000, and then we still have balance. He still has balance of 1,500 naira to pay up. Can you see the second child, Nathaniel? We say that he has paid 100% of his fee. He has nothing again. So this one will help you to bring first term, second term, and third term to a closer view, so you'll be able to see everything at a glance on what is happening in your class. Okay, so this is what the summary does. So if you want to check for GSS2, you click on this place, you click on GSS2. Now, because we've not entered any information for GSS2, there is no financial transaction that has been entered for GSS2. That's why it is blank. Remember, we have only been working on GSS1, and that GSS1 is only first time we have been working on, and that's why we have this. So this one will bring the summary of what is happening at your Inflow interface and your Payable interface into one screen, so that you have everything in one screen to look at: first term, second term, and third term. Okay, so this one is the detailed part of this one here. This one just give you the value and the data, but if you want to get the individual class detail per child, then it is this class summary that you are going to come that will show you what is actually happening. How is this one able to get this data? It is from here. Okay, so that brings us to the end of this review. I hope you enjoyed every bit of it, and I hope you'll be able to replicate this kind of idea in your school. It's going to help your finance a lot, and it's going to save you some headache of arithmetics here and there. And if there is any other features that you think is missing or is lacking, you can use the comment section. You can let me know, and if it is something that you like to have for your school, also comment. Let's have a discussion about it. Thank you very much.